Hey everyone, it's GMX here. I just got back for a walk. Not with Timmy, because he's got the cone and it's raining, and the vets don't really want him out in the rain too much because of the operation he had, so. Anyways, this is also going to be Wrestling Talk Saturdays. Well, Wrestle Talk Saturdays. It's going to start on Fridays and end on today. Because there was a lot of things I didn't cover in terms of WWE and just other various wrestling things. Like, for example, the Cruiserweight Classic. That's coming up, and that's a pretty big deal. Well, to me, I'm really looking forward to seeing it. It's something new. But not only that, but, some returning faces are coming back, like Brian Kendrick and Tajiri. Tajiri is actually one of my favorites of all time, believe it or not. I think he was probably the most successful Japanese wrestler in WWE history. You cannot count Yokozuna because he was actually Samoan. But I think Tajiri was probably the best used Japanese wrestler. So I'm glad to see him back in the Cruiserweight Classic. There's so many guys in the Cruiserweight Classic. It's so hard to keep track of. But actually, Daivari, his little brother, is in it. Kota Ibushi from New Japan. Zack Sabre Jr. There's so many people in this thing. Who are my favorites? Tajiri, obviously. Brian Kendrick. Trying to think if there's anyone else that really stood out to me. I feel like that's so crappy to say those two because I've seen them before, but like a lot of these new guys, I've heard of them, but I haven't really seen much of them, so I don't know. But early on favorites are those two. Who else? And, Tommaso Ciampa and Johnny Gargano, because I've seen them on NXT. They're early favorites. Kota Ibushi's pretty popular going into it. I don't know how that's going to pan out, though, for him. Like, I don't know. Some people that didn't get put into it, I was actually kind of curious about. Like, for example, Ricochet. I'm actually surprised Ricochet wasn't put into the Cruiserweight Classic. I thought he would have been a good fit. Or Will Ospreay. I've never seen his name. I've never heard his name pronounced. I've only seen it pronounced. I've seen it spelled. I know those two just did some kind of crazy flip match in New Japan, something like that. But I figured Ricochet would have been a pretty good fit. Although, to be honest, I don't really like him. He's a talented guy. He's got an interesting look, so to speak. Does it have anything to do with Tessa Blanchard and him dating her? Yeah, it does. I'm kind of a jealous person like that. That's why I don't like Zack Ryder. But I do think he would have been a good fit to the Cruiserweight Classic. Who else? Kushida from New Japan. Kyle O'Reilly. Those two would have been good fits in the Cruiserweight Classic. Especially Kyle O'Reilly with his MMA style. His submissions. Kind of similar to Dean Malenko back in the day. In terms of all the submissions he knows. What's his name? Jack Gallagher. That's an interesting guy I saw. In one of the... I saw kind of the bracketology for the Cruiserweight Classic. And yes, I will be actually live tweeting the Cruiserweight Classic as well. So when I live tweet NXT immediately after, I will be live tweeting the Cruiserweight Classic. I think Chris is going to watch it with me. So... But yeah, early favorites for me are definitely Tajiri and Brian Kendrick. I think the experience factor really plays a part. I really do want Tajiri to win, and I'm really hoping to see the Poison Mist. That's always been one of my favorite things he did. That and his some of the springboard moves and he's just a great. I've always been a big fan of his. Since the original ECW when he first showed up, I always thought this guy, like, he was actually one of my favorite ECW originals. So it's good to see Tajiri back. What else is going on in the wrestling world? Well, Daniel Bryan is going to be doing commentary for the Cruiserweight Classic. That's pretty cool. Good to see Daniel Bryan back with WWE. I mean, I know it was kind of sore for him to be back there after, having to end his career, but I think maybe he could be like the general manager for SmackDown when it goes live. It would be good to keep Daniel Bryan around, especially like with the new era, with like AJ Styles, Cesaro, Kevin Owens. It would be cool to have Daniel Bryan be like in charge of like a brand that has all those guys. A lot of people might say it's too Ring of Honor-y, but you know what? If it works, don't mess with it. Let it happen. And all of these guys that have gone to WWE have really, taken on these whole new personas. None of these guys are really any different. Are really the same guy that they were before. Kevin Owens, just the name change, but his character works in the WWE setting. But yeah, this is mainly to talk about the Cruiserweight Classic, because I've always been a big fan of the Cruiserweight division. Since the original, since WCW, Rey Mysterio, Dean Malenko, Ultimo Dragon, Chris Jericho, the Cruiserweight division back then was just top-notch. And the fact that they're bringing it back now, it's not those guys anymore, but it's a new era of Cruiserweights, which is something that's going to be quite a pretty big deal. Even when WWE had a kind of bumbling Cruiserweight division back in the early 2000s, you had guys like Paul London and Chavo Guerrero, Akio, they were good matches, like especially Akio versus Paul London on Velocity. Those are some really top-notch matches. Who else was there? Jamie Noble, Kid Cash, Gregory Helms. There's so many great cruiserweights, and unfortunately WWE didn't have the respect for cruiserweights as they seem to do now. If any of those matches involve somebody big like Braun Strowman coming out and ruining it, I would be really disappointed. This needs to be about the cruiserweights, not about anything else. No pushing any other further storylines unless it involves a cruiserweight. But none of the current roster is in this Cruiserweight Classic, with the exception of Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa, because they're actually on the NXT roster, and they're actually one of my favorite tag teams on the NXT roster. So, what else? But, there are cruiserweights there. Kalisto would have been good in it. Neville. I think he's still hurt. I think he's still out for a little while longer, maybe a few more weeks. He could be back anytime. But, guys like that could have really been good in the Cruiserweight Classic. And why WWE chose to not have any of their current roster participate is somewhat baffling. Brian Kendrick's there, but he's not on the roster officially. He's trained Eva Marie, but I don't think she's really taken on to the lessons too well, and I don't know what the hell she's doing right now anyways. Not that anyone really gives a shit. She's got a great butt, but that's about it. So, yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. So, like this video, share your thoughts on the Cruiserweight Classic. I'd really love to hear them. Comment, just anything in general, really, about wrestling. Ask me questions. Like, maybe I'll do a wrestling Q&A. If you got any questions about, like, some of my favorite matches or any notable moments or whatever, I'd love to do, like, a Q&A wrestling thing. Subscribe to my channel. I will see y'all later.